Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Am I the Jerk? Our first post is by Other Energy. Am I the jerk for eating my roommate's meal-prepped meals? My M27 roommate M29 and I have lived together for 8 months. We paired up through mutual friends and we are mostly very compatible. Recently, we've started working out together as something fun and healthy to do together. So since I'm lifting more, my metabolism is going insane. I'm taking in like 4,000 calories or more to feel satisfied. Here's why I might be the jerk. My roommate meal preps every Friday for his week. He's a retail manager and his work week is Sunday to Thursday. On Friday, we worked out in the morning and I had a steak and egg burrito plus my usual smoothie. I went to work, but was stuck in meetings the whole day, so I didn't have time to eat until we met with friends for dinner. I had a salad and prawns to start, plus fajitas for the main. When we got back, we had sex, which isn't relevant at all but does explain why else I would be so hungry. And then he went to sleep, but I couldn't sleep because I was starving. It's the middle of the night. The only thing we have that's quick are his meals, and I ate until I felt full. The next day, he woke me up stressed about the meals, and I told him what I had done. All he could say was, "What the F is wrong with me?" He started freaking out and crying, and I offered to buy him lunch for the week. He didn't accept that, called me a selfish jerk, and just left the house. Is this really that big a deal? Edit, update. Okay, I hear you all loud and clear. I am a giant jerk. I just assumed that buying him takeout would suffice for my F-up. I looked up what y'all were saying about safe foods and what all that entails for people with eating disorders. Didn't realize it wasn't an easy fix. I'm stubborn and arrogant, and I know that. I'm in therapy, please shut up about it. I still don't see why so many of you are so hung up on the fact that we're friends with benefits, but whatever. I'm going to apologize and find out how he'd like me to fix it. Our next post is by Holiday Kangaroo. Am I the jerk for telling my wife it's her job to babysit the kids and leaving the house? I, 35M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for 7 years. We have 2 children together, 6M and 3F. She takes care of house and babysits the kids most of the time because she's a stay-at-home mom, but we evenly split chores and childcare on weekends and when I get home from work. My wife is much more social than I am. We moved to her home state from mine because she wanted to be closer to her parents and her childhood friends. Now she is a lot more social than I am. She goes on 3 to 4 girls' trips a year. I have no issues with that, and I'm happy to babysit the kids full-time in her absence. I'm more of a homebody anyway, so I usually like to just paint in the spare room or play video games every once in a while instead of traveling out of state. I don't really take time off from work unless we do something as a family. For the past 3 to 4 months, I was very busy on a major project at work. I've been working 60-hour weeks and frankly, I'm exhausted with the stress. So when the project was finally coming to an end, I told my wife I'm taking a day off and I won't be doing any work around the house. Of course, I'd still clean up after myself, but I didn't want to do any chores or childcare on that one day. I told her that 2 weeks in advance and she agreed. I also reminded her 3 days before. However, when that day came, my wife forgot about our agreement. I was in the painting room, and my wife interrupted me, telling me she needed me to give our daughter a bath because she spilt milk all over herself, and couldn't do it because she had to wash the dishes. It was annoying, but whatever, stuff happens. Later on, when I was playing video games, my wife tells me our son needs help for his math homework. I ask her why can't she help him herself. She said it's because she has some work to do. This work was actually her best friend, coming over and chatting for an hour. This really pissed me off, so after I helped my son and the best friend left, I told my wife I'm leaving the house for 4 or 5 hours. She asked me where I was going. I told her I'm just going to chill in the park and do whatever. But then she said needs me to help out with the chores and with the kids. I told her that today was my day off from all work, including housework, and it's her job to babysit the kids on this day before I left the house. When I came back, she was acting cold and called me a jerk for just abandoning her and the kids. I think she's being dramatic, but when I spoke to my sister, she said parenting is a 24/7 job. So am I the jerk? Our next post is by Spotify X. Am I the jerk for not wanting my future stepson to attend my wedding? I, 30F, am getting married to my fiancé, Alan, 33M, in December. My fiancé was married to Amy, 34F, before me, and they had a son together, Jay, 17F. Amy and Alan slept together at a party when they were both 16, and Jay was the product of that. They tried their best to make it work for 5 years but then got divorced as Amy had cheated on Alan. Now coming to the issue, I met my husband when I was 25 and he was 28. That's nearly 6-7 years after his divorce with Amy. But Jay seemed to think of me as the cause of it. Alan and Amy have decided to not tell Jay about the real reason of their divorce until he's legally an adult. Because of that, he seems to believe that if he pushes his father and mother together, they'll get back together. I have nothing against Jay, but his actions really hurt me, and he's so full of hatred for me. Initially, I tried to be a second mom to him, but he didn't like it, nor did Amy, which I understand. So I stopped trying and treated him as a friend instead. But he talks down to me, calls me homewrecker. But last week, his friends all messaged me harassing me and asking to send them my OnlyFans, which I don't have, since I'm a thought and a lot of other explicit things. This has hit the nail in the coffin for my fiancé. My fiancé is furious at Jay and wants to uninvite him from our wedding, so do I, but Amy is against that. She thinks I'm being too sensitive and believes that this is normal teen behavior. I don't know if my dislike for Jay is clouding my decision. So please tell me, am I the jerk? Edit 1. Hey guys, we scheduled a talk with Amy and Jay tomorrow to look over this issue. We'll update tomorrow if all goes well. Thanks for all the advice and insight. Edit 2. Hey, so I'm going to try to make this not too long, but basically me, Amy, Alan and Jay had a sit-down talk just about 30 minutes ago. It wasn't going anywhere until Alan burst out about Amy cheating on him. Amy went hysterical and tried to deny any accusations but eventually agreed. Jay looked so confused, but he surprisingly took it well. No one expected him to, but he did. He seemed so ashamed of himself. Turns out I was right. Jay didn't believe that I was a homewrecker or anything. He was just jealous and mad that I got with Alan when Alan had money and was rich. Meanwhile, his mom had to go through poverty with his dad and seemed to think of me as some gold digger. Even though I also work and earn almost as much as my fiancé. Jay also admitted that Amy had said a lot of messed up stuff about me to him when Alan and I first got together. He apologized for that. He said that he wasn't aware of what his friends had sent to me and agreed that while he may have confided in his friends about what his mom said about me, he never asked them to message me. I've never seen Jay look so remorseful. Amy was fuming throughout this ordeal and screaming at Alan and I. Eventually, Alan kicked her out to have a more peaceful convo with Amy. Alan and Jay both exchanged hugs, and for the first time in 3 years, Jay looked happy. Well, that didn't last for long, because after the initial guilt and shock, anger settled in, and he immediately moved out of his mom's flat and moved in with us. He'd mad with Alan too for keeping this secret from him, but not at me, surprisingly. He actually didn't blame me. So I think we might actually be able to be in a more friendly familial relationship. Thank you to you all and your messages. I guess all I needed to do was communicate. Thanks. Edit 3. Turns out you all were right. Jay formally apologized to me today and said that he had been feeling guilty for the past year. Apparently, on a camping trip, his girlfriend Maya, 16F, a few months back, he confided in her about everything that had been going on. Maya was the first one to tell him that Amy sounded toxic, and there was probably more to the story. He said that he'd been asking Amy if there was something that he didn't know about Alan and her, but Amy declined. He also agreed that Amy had been abusive growing up and had him sleep outside her apartment on days when she was on her period and wanted some time alone. He never thought to come to us because Amy had portrayed me in such a way that Jay thought I would make a big deal out of it and Alan would no longer invite him over. Jay looked like he was going to cry saying all this. He apologized and said that he was ready for any punishment and begged that we don't cut him off. I told him that it was never my plan and that we're going to work this out together. I also messaged Maya thanking her for consoling Jay and supporting him. Jay and Alan want to go to court and change Amy's custody to visitation only, but I think it's useless since Jay will turn 18 in a couple of months. Next up, posted by Am I the Jerk Dinner. Am I the jerk for taking my daughter's boyfriend out to dinner? My 14-year-old daughter May has been dating this boy Felix, also 14, for a couple of months now. He's a nice boy, really polite, but I can tell he most likely isn't from a well-to-do family. I don't have a problem with this though because, as I said, he seems like a good person and that's what counts. He was going to take my daughter out for ice cream earlier today, and while he was waiting for her to get ready, he asked me if he could have some peanut butter. I said, "Oh, don't you want to save room for the date?" But he explained he didn't have enough money to buy something for himself. He's always paid on their dates, as far as I know. This poor kid was so hungry, I could hear his stomach growling. Offered to give him some money, but he said he's not allowed to accept cash. I then asked him if it'd be alright if I took him out for dinner with my daughter, and he called his mom, and she said it was okay. When May came downstairs, I told her the new plan. She was upset and thought it was lame that I'd be with them. I said I could just sit in the car, and she could call me when it was time to pick up the check, but she was having none of it and said she was going out with some friends instead. It was a little embarrassing since she basically dumped him in front of me, but I kind of just moved on and asked Felix if he still wanted to go. He said, yeah, so I took him down to Wendy's. We had a good time, but when I told May where I'd been, she was furious. She accused me of liking her boyfriend romantically and that I shouldn't have gone on a date with him without her. I reminded her I'd given her that option and she'd refused, but she said that didn't change anything, and now she can't trust me with any of her boyfriends. I tried to tell her I'm not interested in her boyfriend at all, but she just ran out of the room. I feel bad for her, but I don't think I did anything wrong. Am I the jerk? Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.